The life of Rasulullah, his qualities, his nature, and his very being should be considered extremely essential for us, in the sense that it's only right for us to follow in his footsteps as best as we can in our day-to-day lives. As human beings, we strive for a purpose in life. All of us do. This purpose can be called growth, whether it be through small goals like wanting to make sure you pass your next test and don't get scolded by dad, or if it's a bigger goal, like getting your master's in a degree that you're so passionate about. In that sense, we all have goals. An American psychologist, Abraham Maslow, published the theory of the hierarchical needs in 1943. Without going into too much detail, he stated that after we meet all of our basic needs like food and water and a house to live under, we want to be the best person that we can be, achieve a sense of self-actualization. But how do you do that?
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
In this extremely digitized world today, knowledge of almost everything you could want is at your fingertips. A 3-year-old can learn the alphabet using an app on an iPad, or an adult could do an online course on how to start coding. This is very useful, for sure, but your computer isn't going to guide you through everything. And what if you don't know what to do exactly? What if you're just lost? A feeling that welcomes loneliness, solitude, and a vast emptiness. When you're lost, you feel like you can't grasp anything. That no matter what you try, or what you do, or what you attempt, things are always just out of reach. This is where purpose comes in. And purpose is growth. If one wants to grow, they need a person, someone to show them the way, to hold their hand just enough that they are able to find that purpose.
One thing is very clear. We cannot live our life without a role model. कोई भी इंसान इस दुनिया में किसी भी कौम मिल्लत का इंसान हो, किसी भी जो है ग्रोह से बिलोंग करता हो, वो उसे रोल मॉडल की ज़रूरत है, उसे एक आइडियल की ज़रूरत है. हम अपनी लाइफ को बग़ैर आइडियल के नहीं चला सकते, चाहे वो स्पोर्ट्स की फील्ड में हो, या पॉलिटिक्स की फील्ड में हो, या लीडरशिप की फील्ड में हो, किसी भी सोशल जो है वो एक्टिविटीज़ में हो, फैमिली अफेयर्स में हो, हमारी टीचिंग में हो, यूनिवर्सिटी कॉलेज प्रोफेसर, एनीवेयर. हमें एक रोल मॉडल की ज़रूरत है कि हमें किस नहज पे, किस वे में अपनी लाइफ को आगे बढ़ाना है.
And we can find a role model in a lot of people, actually. Unfortunately, the problem comes from the fact that people in this material world are not perfect. We are the greatest creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but imperfections within us exist. What makes us human are our mistakes. And we can certainly grow from them, sure, but if we're looking for a person to look up to, and everyone we know in this world are human beings who make mistakes, then who do we look to?
इसीलिए अल्लाह तबारक व तआला ने उन जो एग्जाम्पलरी जो फिगर्स हैं, अहले बैत अलैहिस्सलाम ऑन द टॉप, लाइक रसूलुल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम, जिसकी ज़ात वाला सिफ़ात तमाम यानी इंसानियत के लिए नमूना, और इसलिए नमूना है कि जो काम रसूलुल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने अपने अखलाक और अपने किरदार के बिना पे किया है, वो पॉसिबल नहीं था. आप अगर अरबियन पेनिनसुला की हिस्ट्री और उसकी तारीख़ को पढ़ें तो आपको बखूबी अंदाज़ा होगा कि किस स्टैंडर्ड में वो लोग ज़िंदगी जी रहे थे, उनकी लाइफ की गोल्स क्या हुआ करते थे, यानी उनके अहदाफ क्या थे ज़िंदगी के, और उनकी रोज़मर्रा की लाइफ कैसी थी. ऐसी सिचुएशन में, ऐसी कंडीशन में एक नबी जिसने विद इन फ्यू ईयर्स जो है 180 डिग्री उस माशरे को, उस समाज को कम्प्लीटली चेंज कर दिया, और वो इतना चेंज किया कि वो माशरा और वो सोसाइटी फिर तमाम दुनिया के लिए एक नमूना और एक आइडियल बन के आया.
Role models are important, and the right role models even more so. It's clear as day that the Ahl al-Bayt and Rasulullah in particular are the peak examples for how to live your life, how to act with those around you, and what kind of a character you need to develop as you grow. But it obviously doesn't just stop at the big picture. For example, What about cleanliness? Looking at this verse from the Quran, Surah Mudassir, verse number 4, and in the context of Rasulullah, we can see the importance of being clean and observing cleanliness. In one such example, Rasulullah would literally boil his clothes in water. To put into context how revolutionary this was, the famous germ theory, the theory that states that bacteria and germs found everywhere around us are the main causes of our diseases and how we get sick. This theory was developed in 1861, about 160 years ago. Meanwhile, Rasulullah was boiling his clothes to get rid of all germs and bacteria almost 1400 years ago. It's more than 1,000 years before the advent of the germ theory. Whenever he would walk to and from somewhere, a person could find his scent lingering and know that Rasulullah had been through here. That was the extent of his cleanliness, building an aura of tidiness and maintaining himself. It is interesting to see this because life in Arabia at the time was quite simple and largely without innovation for even the most simplest of tasks. Yet Rasulullah had come to this world and provided even the simplest ways on how to properly live life.
यानी इमाम सादिक अलैहिस्सलाम से ये रिवायत है उसूल काफ़ी में कि रसूल अकरम सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम खुशबू पर इतना ज़्यादा खर्च करते थे कि उतना वो जो है वो अपने खाने पे भी खर्च नहीं करते थे, बल्कि यहाँ तक मिलता है कि अगर कोई इंसान खुशबू की शक्ल में आपको कोई हदिया तोहफा गिफ्ट देता था तो वो उसे जल्दी एक्सेप्ट कर लेते थे और उसे यूज़ भी करते थे फ़ौरन ही, कि ताकि बहरहाल देने वाले को ये चीज़ एक नफ्सियाती है, एक साइकोलॉजिकल चीज़ है कि अगर आप किसी का गिफ्ट लें और उसे यूज़ करें तो उसे बहुत अच्छा लगता है, और अगर आप इससे महसूस होता है कि आपने उसको इम्पोर्टेंस दी है.
This is an important point that Rasulullah observed, making sure that if someone gifted Rasulullah something, he would make sure to use it as soon as possible so as to not disrespect the thought behind the gift.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله.
Despite revolutionizing the way people can live their lives in Arabia at the time, Rasulullah lived an incredibly simple life. He was all about simplicity, and so were his teachings. There are many avenues we can take to discuss this, but let's take one that we can all relate to: food. For us Muslims, we have a lot to think about when we eat, especially if we live in the West. For example, is it halal or is it tahir? But not often do we ask, how much should we be eating? Even though that's just as important a question.
आज आप देखें कि बहुत सारी इंसानों को जो प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, जो उनको फिज़िकल डिजीज़ का सामना है, उनकी बॉडी में प्रॉब्लम्स है, वो ये है कि खाने का बैलेंस नहीं है. बहुत सारी चीज़ें इंसान सिर्फ टेस्ट के लिए खाता है और खाता चला जाता है. लेकिन अगर आप हदीस देखेंगे तो हदीस कहती है कि रसूल अकरम सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम से हदीस है कि फरमाते हैं कि अल्लाह यानी इंसान का शिकम जो उसका यानी उसका जो पेट है वो समटाइम्स इट बिकम्स द वर्स्ट कंटेनर इफ इट इज़ फुल ऑफ फूड. फॉर एग्जांपल, यानी अगर इंसान का पेट खाने से भरा हुआ है वो एक बदतरीन कंटेनर है, एक ज़र्फ है. बल्कि इंसान अपना जितनी कोशिश हो सके वो कम से कम खाना खाए. क्यों? क्योंकि ज़्यादातर जो बीमारियां हैं, ज़्यादातर जो चीज़ें हैं, वो हम देखते हैं कि हमारे ज़्यादा खाने से है. जिसे आप फ़ारसी में पुरखोरी कहते हैं एंड इंग्लिश में ओवर ईटिंग कहते हैं. ज़्यादातर प्रॉब्लम्स ओवर ईटिंग की वजह से होती है हमारी लाइफ में.
Overeating is something that can affect anyone. Now, of course, before we continue, it should be duly noted that many people suffer from diseases and conditions that developed out of their control that leads to eating more than one should beyond one's conscience. And we're not making light of that or dismissing it. Rather, overeating in this sense means the average person eating more than they really should be. Rasulullah has said that a man's stomach, if completely full and even more than full, becomes its worst container. Our ulama, reported on multiple occasions, observed this by eating only as much as absolutely necessary. enough to feel that you've taken enough of the nutrients you need to be healthy, to grow, and to remain nourished, but not enough that you feel full, so to speak. Scientifically speaking, a balanced diet of carbs, proteins, fats, and other nutrients are incredibly important for you. This all ties in homeostasis, digestion, and mindfulness. Homeostasis means your body wants to feel normal, essentially. If you're feeling cold, your body's going to shiver to make you warm. If you're too warm, your body sweats to cool you off. You want to make sure you help your body feel normal. This is why Rasulullah recommends eating just enough so you rebalance your energy and allow your body to regulate all the nutrients such as glucose in a reasonable way. Think of it like lifting the right amount of weight to make your muscle bigger versus going too big too fast on the first try and just collapsing. When you eat just enough, your body can digest foods easier, and the simple act of eating properly exercises mindfulness, which can help you be balanced in anything else you do, such as studying, playing, and even sleeping the right amount.
और खाने के बाद जो आखिरी चीज़ मैं इस सिलसिले में बयान करना चाहता हूँ, और वो सबसे इम्पॉर्टेंट है एज हाइजीन पर्पज से, कि इस इंसान को खाने के बाद मिसवाक करना है, यानी उसे ब्रश करना है। क्यों? क्योंकि खाने की पार्टिकल्स फिर दांतों में रह जाते हैं, तो उसकी वजह से जो प्रॉब्लम्स होती है इंडाइजेशन की होती है, और सेहत में उसका बहुत बड़ा रोल है। आप डेंटिस्ट के पास जाइए और पूछिए कि अगर कोई रेगुलर ब्रश नहीं करता है तो वो आपको बताएगा कि कितनी तरीके की बीमारियां इंसान दावत दे रहा हो रहा है।
Rasulullah said, if it wasn't difficult for my ummah to perform miswak or brushing your teeth before every salat, it would have been made wajib. However, it's not wajib, but it's still highly, highly recommended to do so. This all brings the point of making sure you eat wisely and healthy so that you can make your day productive rather than becoming lazy. Rasulullah, and most importantly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, would not be pleased with that.
أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله.
Oftentimes you'll notice, even in your own household, a generational clash, so to speak. Once parents make a remark that they want their kids to live the kind of life that they did, a life decades ago full of hardship and difficulty. They implore that their children should experience these hardships for their own growth, not realizing the conflict this causes within the household.
अगर किसी के पास बच्चा है तो उसे चाहिए कि वो उस बच्चे को उसके सामने बच्चा बन जाए। क्या मतलब? यानी आप अपने बच्चे के सामने बाप तो हैं, जाहिर है उसको कोई डिनाई नहीं कर सकता, लेकिन बच्चे को हर वक्त बाप नहीं चाहिए। एक छोटा बच्चा अपने फादर में वो तमाम चीज़ें देखना चाहता है, क्योंकि उसका फ्रेंड सर्कल बहुत महदूद होता है, बहुत ही छोटा होता है। वो अभी उसने बाहरी दुनिया में कदम नहीं रखा है, तो जो कुछ है उसके वो पेरेंट्स हैं, उसके फ्रेंड, उसके मेंटर, उसके जो है वो नर्चरर, तमाम चीज़ें, उसके टीचर, तमाम फ्रेंड।
Rasulullah's guidance on becoming like a child echoes studies and findings done by psychologists such as Vygotsky and Piaget. As a child's social circle is super limited to their immediate family, their parents for example, they scaffold or learn through copying. If a parent just remains a parent, the child can't learn because your behaviors and your mannerisms are just a little too complicated for them. If you become childlike, you become a child. You enter their level of development, and they can better mimic, copy, and understand your actions. You also meet a child's emotional needs by playing with them like this. According to Bowlby's attachment theory, a child's emotional needs are met through secure attachment. This means you want to play with your child, be around them like a friend, a secure person, someone they can be extremely comfortable around. This way, their emotional stability is secured in the long term. Rasulullah was, of course, fully aware of this. He emphasized on it greatly by carrying children on their backs, playing horsey with them, and being like a child with them, especially Imam Hassan and Imam Hussain alayhi salam. Imam Ali alayhi salam would do the same thing too. In fact, when children would pass by the Holy Prophet, he would make it a point to say salam first, not wait for the children to say salam to their elders. It's this kind of respect that Rasulullah showed that is tantamount to how we should be with kids, not view them as just people who need to grow and mature soon, but to realize their development relies on their surroundings and their environment. And when they're young, their environment is us.
أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله.
You might have come across videos presenting a wildlife conservatory or a park where someone is seen taking care of, playing, and generally being comfortable around an animal you normally wouldn't want to be with, like a tiger or a bear. It's shown that the person in question has taken care of the animal for so long that they've formed a bond that goes beyond species. This is an example of love, and there's a lot of strength in love.
ये नहजुल फसाह की हदीस है कि अगर आपके पास जितनी भी दौलत है, अगर आप उसे खर्च कर देते तो भी आप लोगों के दिलों को मोड़ नहीं सकते थे। और आप देखेंगे कि ये तो हदीस की बात हो गई, लेकिन कुरान में सूरह अनफाल की आयत नंबर 63 में बयान हो रहा है कि ए मेरे हबीब, आप यानी अगर रसूल अकरम सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम से खिताब हो रहा है कि अगर दुनिया की तमाम, खुलासा ये कि इन शॉर्ट कि अगर दुनिया की तमाम जितनी नेमतें हैं, अगर इसे आप सर्व कर दे, खर्च कर देते, तो भी आप लोगों के दिलों पर राज नहीं कर सकते थे, लोगों के दिलों पे जो है हुकूमत नहीं कर सकते थे अगर अल्लाह उनके दिल में मोहब्बत ना डाले.
This verse exemplifies the fact that money or any other material things, for that matter, cannot buy love. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us the capability to attract others through our actions, our character, our personality, and how we carry ourselves. Let's go to your school lives for a second. I want you to imagine your favorite teacher. Now, I want you to imagine a teacher you can't stand. What's the difference? More likely than not, your favorite teacher is your favorite because of their nature, their character, how they treated you, who they are. This is the power we hold. The power to create bonds, friendships, and loving relationships through the way we act. It even lines up with something called pro-social behavior. Acting in a way that benefits someone, such as being nice, relatable, or emotionally available, activates reward pathways and mirror neurons in the brain, encouraging the other person to be just as nice to you and promoting social harmony. A lot of parents have a very understandable worry that their kids may be hanging around people who may be of bad influence. If you feel like you're hanging around people who may not have the best attributes or are doing things that are wrong, it's always good to step away and no one would fault you for it. You could also try to politely talk to your friends, understand why they're committing acts that may not be right, and try to convince them to do otherwise through love and understanding. Even the Quran says that if you guide one person, it's as if you guided a whole nation. This is something that Rasulullah would act on diligently ever since he was very young, trying his best to motivate those who needed it and to try to prevent people he knew from going astray. People already gave him the title of As-Sadiq and Al-Amin before he had officially become the Holy Prophet at the age of 40. Love in of itself is a powerful tool that one can use as a foundation for their existence and their character. Whether it's as a husband or a father, a wife or mother, a son, a daughter, a teacher, a colleague, a classmate, or as anyone else, love is something that is so strongly needed, especially today. We seem to drive ourselves towards hate for others because of the smallest differences, because of the most trivial and often selfish things. If you bring love towards your brothers, your family, and to others you see in your daily lives, you could solve so many problems, whether it be on a personal level or even a societal level. This is especially important when we think about the reappearance of the Imam of our time, Imam Muhammad al-Mahdi. We are told that he will come down and swords will be met with swords and there will be battles to decide the fate of the world moving forward. This is all on a much more grand and political level. It must also be known that when the Imam of our time reappears, He will attract others and invite others to His side through love, caring, and understanding. And this is something we should try to also do in our daily lives, so we can be rightfully by His side when the time comes, inshallah. Of course, a lot has been covered regarding Rasulullah in this video. To put it concisely, living your life in the most meaningful and purposeful way possible requires a mentor, a figure, or a group of people to look up to that are so immensely perfect that it's hard to look anywhere else. This is the Ahlul Bayt. This is Rasulullah, the last prophet, the messenger of Islam, and taking just a few points from his life and applying it to yours can have such a profound impact that you would be surprised. Give it a try. Maybe try brushing after you eat food, or go give a friend a smile or a shoulder to lean on. Go play with your children and become like a child in front of them. We, as humans, are the greatest creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and our potential allows us to become even more closer to Him.